So today we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where civilization starts over. In the last episode, we saw a couple things happening, like the forming some new countries in Asia. We saw the Greek War right here. We saw Russia expanding. You know, Sweden uh started doing some stuff. And there also was a lot more. But in this episode, we are going to take a look at some pretty big stuff because look at these alliances right here, and that'll tell you something. The first thing that will happen in this episode is the Greeks joining the Circle Alliance. Now they join the Circle Alliance because they're squared of the squares. They're squared of the squares. They're all surrounding them. They're scared of them, and they feel like Italy could help them. Who knows if that is what actually will happen? Same thing with these guys. They are also squared. Oh my! I said squared again. They're scared of the Square Alliance, so they will join on the side of the Circle Alliance. Another country joining an alliance is gonna go ahead and be these guys right here. Slovenians. If I can do the right thing, oh my god. The Slovenians will be joining the Triangle Alliance because they want to finally take down the Sickle team and the Braum team specifically. That is their main goal, and they will probably follow up on that. The Dutch are going to go ahead and join on the Circle Alliance. And the Circle Alliance is like, okay, we recruited Greece and recruited Ukraine and the Dutch. So one more country could do. Not one more country. It's actually going to go ahead and be this country right here. The kind of mountain Alp country, kind of where Austria and Switzerland are. Um, they join because they've had good relations with the Brown team in the past. So, yeah, they will join the Circle Alliance. And I'm going to make that circle a little bigger because it kind of looks like their capital. So, there we go. Yeah, that looks good. But let's go ahead and go over here to the Black Sea. And let's take a look at the Ottomans. So they have a trade ship that goes out from one of their ports right here, and they trade with the capital of the Byzantine. The next thing they do is they trade with the Bulgarians right into that port right there. And then when they start to come back, right about at this point, they are the whole ship is just it sank into the ocean. The red team kind of destroyed it from one of their things right here, one of their ports, and the Ottomans are not having that. So the Ottomans are going to go ahead and declare war on the Ukrainians, and that of course starts a European war. The Ottomans are going to go ahead and send a boat up to this part of Crimea, and they start taking some land. And this is mainly just there's not too many people living in this land, but they have a plan in mind, and that is to kind of do this. So they're gonna try to follow up on that plan, but there's just a lot of loss of life here, as the casualties are pretty bad, and they do encircle these troops. However, it has come with a lot of loss of life. They do get some more land over here in this part of Crimea, but that will be all for the Ukrainian front line right now. Coming over here to Greece, we see the Albanians taking some land, and they even connect up with the Aegean Sea. And that is all the Albanians are doing for right now because they're mainly focused on a threat up here. As the pink Sicily people start to invade the brown team, Albania is thinking of doing this too. However, it's just too costly. As maybe when they're done getting rid of this front line, they will deal with this one. Coming back to Ukraine, we do see that the Ottomans do some pretty good work. However, it is a very hard fought battle at this major city where Sevastopol is in real life. They do lose it, but that comes with a lot of loss of casualties from the Ottomans. But they have a lot of what? They have a lot of population, so I wouldn't worry about that. They can just conscript when they want to. So Sicily has a plan here. They're gonna let the brown team actually take their land back, and they're actually gonna also let the brown team start to invade. But they will hold a harsh naval blockade right here, and they will hold a fortress at this port. This place right here, so that cannot get past. And what their main goal was to do is actually take out Greece. So the Ottomans are going to go ahead and land and create these islands, and then the pink team will invade. And it's once again there's some loss of casualties, not as bad as Ukraine, but the Ottomans will land in Athens, and then yeah, this is about Joe over. So now the Bulgarians are probably splitting the troops. Half are gonna go to this front line, and the other half are gonna go to Ukraine. Albania, it's all their troops are going to go to this front line now. Well, actually, no. Probably half are going to go to this front line, and half are going to be loaded up on docks to go into this major city. We'll just have to see. But the red team, they just did a really, really big oopsie. So they invaded the Sicily thing, and or they Sicily port on the Catalonian coast that they got from the big yellow team collapse. If I can flick the right thing, oh my, I hate this so much sometimes. But right here, there's a group that is holding out. And in fact, they're killing red team civilians that are being pumped into this area. They're just killing them. So, I mean, the red team and this group right here are doing bad things. But, uh, the red team is gonna go ahead and try to move them to the cyan team. So they won't be as resilient because the cyan team doesn't really do anything. So they're gonna move them to the cyan team. And it's gonna go well for the first couple days. And they start moving them to a point that looks something like this on this piece of land right here. Now, these guys are wearing red coats, like the soldiers of the red team are wearing red coats, kind of like the British. They're wearing red coats, and they have they have the name Red Team on them or whatever it's called in this actual world. And yeah, so the purple teams thinks these soldiers are bringing civilians into the purple team, or they're just gonna invade the purple team. So the purple team's like, we're not gonna have that. So the purple team declares war on the Circle Alliance, bringing the whole Circle Alliance and the whole Triangle Alliance against each other. So now this is a fully world war, full world war. Well, not really, because no other continents are involved except for Asia, but barely. And then, also this is pretty cool. I'm gonna expand on this eventually, but we just have to have a war, so yeah. So with these new front lines, the Dutch team is gonna go ahead and invade the purple team, if I can pick the right color. There we go. They invade the purple team, and they get pretty close to a major city, and they almost encircle it, but the city is holding out pretty well. The English are holding a pretty good front line in the sea that looks like, that, so that the purple team could not advance farther. Back over here on the Ukrainian front line, we see the red team pushing down over here into Crimea. They use a lot of their military to do this. In fact, it does go pretty well, and they take a lot of the coast. However, it's just a not good front line to hold, so they pull back their troops. That is not the right color. So they pull back their troops to that. And they didn't lose too many casualties. It's only the Ottomans that you lose a lot of casualties, but they did lose some. Anyways, this little Slovenian country, they're gonna go ahead and invade the brown team. And they're gonna even get to the Venice area, and they even capture it, capturing a major city in the process. But the brown team is going to try to hold them off now that they don't have to deal about this. So the brown team is going to do something that makes them feel good, but it's really not good. They're going to invade this part, and they're going to even capture a major city, and they're going to try to cut off the Slovenians. But what they're really trying to do is make the Slovenians pull back their front line, and they actually will do that because, yeah, they need to. And then when they hear that this happens, they're just gonna invade right back and take all this land, almost all this land, right back. So that was pretty much worthless, and it caused some casualties. The red team now getting the call that they can just invade the cyan team now. They're just gonna go ahead and do that, and they're gonna even split it up with the brown team. How nice. Then they slightly invade the purple team, but not too much, as there was a lot of border guards and soldiers in this area. The pink team is going to get back from hibernation, and they're going to invade the brown team. Just a little bit. The Albanians are also going to make a landing, and they capture a major city, and they even meet up with the pink team. Back over here on the Dutch front line, the purple team has finally lost this major city, and they even lose another, and they pull back to something that looks like that. There we go. But the purple team is going to hold a pretty big defensive line in this region right here, so that the Dutch team cannot push back any further. The Slovenians are going to get their head out of the dirt, and they're going to go ahead and push back the brown team, and they're going to make a full front line that looks like this. So they just start rapidly pushing into the brown team. And so the brown team is going to go ahead and do a thing known as conscription. They're going to do that, and it's actually going to work pretty well. They start to take back a lot of the southern land and even the major city that the Slovenians took. However, they cannot fully push out the Slovenians. The white team is going to go ahead and also participate in this war, trying to cut off the Slovenian troops, and they even capture a major city, surprisingly. And they meet up with the blue team, taking all this northern land. And now people are wondering, is the white team more competent than the brown team? Probably. Anyways, going to this front line, there is no movement on this front line as it's not really anything important for the brown team. They're mostly focused on supplying their Slovenian troops, Slovenian buddies, and they don't really care about this front line for now. In fact, there has been nothing happening on this Crimean front line except for death, so that's kind of sad. Fighting for nothing, but it will probably be good in the end. Back over here on this front line, the purple team has pushed back on the border, and they even push back pretty much everything. However, they cannot push any farther as there are defenses in this area that are too hard for the purple team to break through. So now they're probably going to mainly focus on getting rid of the Dutch team and then the orange country. So the purple team will go ahead and take some land from the Dutch country, even taking this major city back. However, a lot of Dutch troops are in this area. Most of the Dutch troops in the world are in this area. So it is very hard for the French to move because the Dutch only have to worry about one thing, and that's this. The orange team can just worry about their naval front lines, and they can also help supply the Dutch right here. So it's just a bad case scenario for the purple French team. However, they are getting support and troops from the Swedish as they are sending troops down here and supplying the purple team. Still using that conscription, they push back. The brown team pushes back into the northern area. However, in the southern area, it's a different story. As the Slovenians break through, and they manage to capture the Venice area again, and even the major city. They do start to push around with the white team. However, the white team is still able to secure the major city that they did capture, and even get a little bit of land down here. Like I said, the brown team uses conscription now, so they're going to push back the Albanians a lot. And they're going to push the pink team fully out of brown team territory. And they once again fully push them out of the mainland Italian peninsula. The purple team is now going to go ahead and land in Cornwall, where they used to own due to a falsely, they land in Cornwall because of a bad naval blockation of the Cornwall area by the English. So the purple team will be able to push in to the orange team. But eventually they focus on Navy less and they focus on this more, which is probably a good call. We kind of buy time for the square team. The square team is gonna go ahead and recruit another member, that being Cyprus. And the Cypriots will start to push into the Ottoman Empire, taking a couple major cities at the start of the war, and even getting pretty close to the Ottoman capital. The red team is going to pull back troops from the Crimean front line, so the Ukrainians will be able to push back into something that looks like this, with mostly now 50% of the Ottoman military and then 50% of the Bulgarian military here. So that is what that does apparently. But you have to be worried about the Cypriots as they are making pretty good ground over here. And even if they do lose the war, they probably won't lose a lot of land because they are doing pretty well in this stage of the war. The Albanians will put like 100% into their military and now into this front line. and they just start rapidly pushing in. The Bulgarians are helping the military do this too. And the Bulgarians or the Pink Sicily people, they will also push back and they will push even to a front line that looks like this. There we go. And they actually capture the major city. Pretty good for them. Back on the Slovenian front line, the Brown Italians have completely pushed the Slovenians out of Italy and they start pushing in to the Slovenian, but not before a major event happens, which will be painful, very painful for the Brown team. And if you remember in a couple episodes back, the Genoa area rebelled, and that will happen again. So, the Genoans will take all of northern Italy with them, and that pretty much just, this is a breakaway, by the way. It isn't a rebellion, it's just a breakaway, but it's going to become a rebellion because the Brown team just lost pretty much all of their northern territory, which was pretty much the best territory for their country. This is a lot of farmable land right in this region over here, and now just reduced to this mountainous Italian peninsula, which will probably not be too good for them. So what's going to happen to this? Well, that is going to go ahead and be occupied by their allies. So this is going to go to the white team, and then this is going to go ahead and go to their allies and the red team, and that's going to be it. So the brown team is gonna try to push back, and they don't receive much resistance until they do because they have just mobilized a bunch of soldiers, and the orange team is now fighting back. And with this kind of bad thing in the north, the southern annoyances are gonna be able to push back, and they're gonna do pretty well. The purple team is going to once again receive invasion by the red team. However, this is worse than ever as it is getting pretty bad and pretty far. But something that has just happened for the Triangle Alliance and the Square Alliance is going to be great for those alliances because two people, just joined in on the war, not on a side together and not on even a different alliance. They're just going to join in on the war. So let's talk about the first one being the gold team. They don't join against this country in particular, or the brown team, or the red team. What they want is they declare war on this country, and they say, white team, it's okay, we won't invade you. And the white team's like, okay. And the gold team is like, nice, because they are now invading the the Dutch country, and it's not going well for the Dutch. And now the purple team is even pushing back. Now the purple team is going to go ahead and make a landing or make an invasion. And eventually the front lines will look like this, and the Dutch will surrender just like that to the hands of another country that has invaded them in the past, but they no longer exist and probably will no longer exist either in the peace treaty. But we will take a look at that later. Anyways, let's go ahead and see what is happening. Oh, that's not good. So yeah, this guy is getting invaded a lot into the Wales area and specifically, and that's not going well for them, as you can see. But the other country I was talking about is Russia. So the Russians are gonna go ahead and they are gonna invade the Red Circle Alliance country. They're gonna invade the Ukrainian team, and this they start pushing around. This is when the brown team kind of like really wishes they didn't supply Slovenia. Well, I mean, they still want to, but they're they really wanted to get out some of this land. So the Ottomans are going to eventually also push back on this front line, and they're going to take pretty much all the Ukrainian troops with them, and in fact, they do. And then they capture the capital, and that's when the Ukrainians go ahead and surrender. So we will take a look at that peace treaty later, but for now we have to take a look at this. And the Cypriots, they won't back down. However, they're going to they're gonna fight. They're gonna fight pretty rough. They're gonna do really good, and they don't have any major cities anymore. But they most likely will not lose too much land in the peace treaty because they fought pretty well. And it's not like the Ottomans really hate the Cypriots. I mean, they get it. These guys were just forced to be on the Circle Alliance now. So the Square team is going to go ahead and sign an armistice with the Cypriots, and that is going to be finalized. The southern annoyances are going to continue to be annoyances as they start taking more land. And even the Sicilians will capture the major city and the capital of the brown team. And eventually this thing is going to go ahead and fall. and we will take a look at that peace treaty later. This is when the white team is going to go ahead and sign an armistice with the whole Triangle Alliance. And the orange team fully surrenders to the purple team. So that just changed really fast. Armistices were signed. And now it's pretty much the red team against the world. And the red team is having a major dilemma, and they've had major mistakes in this war so far. That's how the war even started. Another major mistake that the red team didn't really consider is other countries joining the war against you. And the blue team wants the revenge. They want the revenge back, and they're gonna get it. There are barely any red team troops on this border, so the blue team is just gonna get a lot of their land back, and it's gonna go pretty well. This cyan team will rebel away from the red team. The Sicily people land in their former colony. The purple team is going to go ahead and get its land back. And that is when the full invasion starts of the red team. And eventually, after the capital is taken, the red team is going to go ahead and surrender to all of the parties they have angered. And we can go ahead and take a look at this peace treaty in 3, 2, 1. Let's start in Ukraine. So, like I said, let's start in Ukraine. So, for this division, the Russians will get all this northern land right here, and then the rest will go over to the Ottomans. And this city, or this capital, is, well, first I gotta make it into a city. Then I'm gonna go ahead and erase capital, and there we go. Now it's just a major city of the Ottoman Empire. Now, you might be wondering, well, Russia did a lot of work, but guess what? The Ottomans lost so many casualties in this Ukrainian front line. So the world kind of feels like they should get some land too. For the Cyprus peace treaty, Cyprus will only lose a little bit of land right here, and this is basically only because they fought well. They would probably lose all this land if they just fought horribly, but they didn't. So they only lose a little bit of provinces, and that's like only like 7, so it's not too big of an issue. Plus, there are no major cities in that area. So, yeah. For the Greek peace treaty, we can go ahead and see that the Albanians will get a large amount of land right here that includes a major city and also access to the Aegean Sea. The Ottomans will get pretty much all of the Greek islands, so yeah. And the rest of it, now let's take a look at the Italian peace treaty. So, for the peace treaty of Italy, it looks a little something like this. In fact, I'm actually going to change it a little bit. Hold on. There we go. I did change it a little bit. Anyways, over here in southern Italy, the pink team will get this major city and some other land. And then the red team is going to get this major city and also some other land. And, yeah, the Albanians are really happy about this. They recently got independence, and they have gotten a lot of land from this. So they will, like, probably stay a Square Alliance member forever because it really changed how history went. The Albanians could have just been ruled by the Greeks. This whole front line maybe wouldn't happen, and maybe the Circle Lines could have won. Who knows? But anyway, let's go up here. So this guy, these civilians will get all of this land right here, while the Cyan team, who didn't technically like invade anywhere in the war, I don't care. They get this. And then the rest of it will go to this Genoa, northern Italian country. And of course, I just said Genoa because their capital is gonna go ahead and be in Genoa. So yeah. But now it's time for the big peace treaty, that being the red team. Let's go ahead and take a look at that right now. So, taking a look at this red peace treaty, we can go ahead and see that the blue team is gonna go ahead and get this, not that color, this, and they get a pretty good chunk of territory. So the pink team will get all of this land right here, a pretty good chunk of coastal land, and then the cyan team, who once again didn't really take much in the war, they do get like 3 provinces over here. The purple team will get that, and now for the new independent country. So actually, let's go ahead and take a look at Ireland first. They have become independent under a new yellowish kind of team. But over here, we see that Portugal has now gained independence, and so has this kind of Galician kind of country area. And the red team does still exist, however, they're very crippled. Anyways, top capital. So Portugal's capital will be right here. Galicia's capital will be right here. And then the capital of Ireland will be in that major city right there. Now let's take a look at the English peace treaty. Now this is our peace treaty of England. So we can see that the purple team gets this amount of land. Over here in the north, the blue team actually gets land. Now, they didn't participate in this war. However, they are just given land because why not? And then a new Welsh country will pop up, and they will take the Isle of Man with them. And of course, their capital will be in the only major city they have right here. And I'm pretty sure Newport is like right here. Or actually, I don't want to know. Please don't correct me on that because I'm gonna sound stupid. Anyways, for the final peace treaty of this episode, I think, that is for the Dutch. Let's go ahead and take a look at. And this is a pretty quick and easy little explanation. So, purple team will get this, and then the rest will go to the gold team. And that Dutch country no longer exists, which is a very sad day, of course. Anyways, I think that was everything that was covered in the war. And if it wasn't covered, it doesn't need any land exchanges. But anyways, that is gonna do it for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy it. And yeah, it was a pretty big war. But anyways, I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.